Alright guys, welcome to my second recap of the Canadian Open. You may notice that it's a little bit brighter here. My desk lamp is on since it's getting dark outside. But yeah, I just finished this game a couple of hours ago. I got a bit of a tough pairing this round. It's a game against John Fedorowicz from the United States. He used to be one of the strongest grandmasters, I believe, back in the day. And when I checked his profile, I think that this is only his second or third tournament in the last couple of decades. So it's kind of cool to see that he's getting back into it. But anyway, let's check out what happened here. I didn't get to prep for this game, by the way, so I'm going into this pretty much completely blind. So I played the Benko Gambit with b5 here, and I played my system with e3. I'm just going to follow up with a4, knight c3, and eventually e4, knight f3, just to support the b5 square before I do anything else. So after a4, knight c3, e4, this is all very standard. And then as soon as I saw that he played bishop to b7, I knew that he was going to go for some line with e6 at some point. And these lines are always annoying to face because you're never really sure if you want to take this or if you want to just leave it still. So I know in some lines taking on e6 and just ignoring it are both acceptable, but there are also some lines where you need to know one or the other. Now this is one of those cases where I believe you should just leave it alone. It does look scary to open up the e-file, but I mean I have to deal with it. This is one of Black's best lines against the e3 Benko decline. It gives Black some good counterplay chances. So I went bishop to e2. I actually spent a ridiculous amount of time here, just completely inexcusable. I spent like I think close to 40 minutes. It might have even been over 40 minutes. I was also just kind of feeling exhausted, and I just spent way too long calculating some lines that are just like, you know, it's just pointless to calculate all these lines so early on. Now, one of the major reasons why I was kind of unsure about my position here was that even though this is a position that I probably have seen before, whether it's online or in one of my other online communities, I wasn't sure what would happen after taking on e5. He just trades everything on d5 here. Sorry, not with the knights. With the bishop, I would move the bishop again. He simplifies in the center, and then after something like queen e7, I don't know, let's say bishop to e2 and queen e6. It just looks like I'm losing this pawn, and I didn't think this was something I wanted to necessarily allow, because after knight b5, I think it's just queen d5, and knight c7, he just trades queens, and Black is fine after, let's say, rook to a7, among other moves, of course. Yeah, I just wasn't really a fan of having to move this bishop like 3 or 4 times, so just to defend that pawn. So ultimately, I chose a really, really dumb decision here. I made a really dumb decision, rather, to go king f1, and now, I mean, my king's on f1, and there's just no way my king's going to get out in time. I mean, maybe I can go h4, rook h3, king g2, king h2, but that's like a 4-step plan. Even though white is objectively not worse here, according to the engine, this is a position that's very, very difficult to play for a human, because you know, Black already has the psychological edge in that he was able to provoke my king to f1 in an open position where Black is trying to get some serious counterplay, and he's only down a pawn even though it's equal, so that's already showing that he's trending in the right path. So he goes knight e6, just developing. He wants to go knight b4 next, just to add another attacker to d5. I go h4, as I mentioned earlier. I just want to create some lift for my king eventually, and maybe do a rook lift. Now here, again, I made probably my first real mistake. Like king f1 was a mistake. It was probably the major mistake that led to what happened in the game. This d6 move was just much too rash. I mean, I could have probably held on if I had played something like bishop to c4, or even, I think the engine points out that h5 is playable here. Trying to open up the h-file here. After it takes h5, at least you have a move to do something, maybe bishop to g5 here. Something along those lines, just to distract the knight for a second, right? But after d6, I mean, I just open up his bishop. I allow all his pieces to just come back. He can even go back to c6 when he wants. and this pawn is just very weak. It doesn't really, I play this because I want to save the pawn, but on d6 it's actually more of a hindrance in my position, because I open up his very strong bishop. And the moment he goes 94 and just trades this off, I mean, he'll have two fantastic bishops, and my rooks on a1 and h1 are obviously not anywhere near as impressive. So under d6, queen to e6. Right here, this is my only like real like major blunder in this game, but I was already heading down the wrong path, as I sort of alluding to earlier. So after knight to g5, I'm just playing for tricks at this point. I mean, I thought I was already just completely lost, so that's why I kind of just play these moves quickly. After I tanked for 40 moves on move 8 in the opening, I was just kind of like discouraged, and I wasn't really motivated to try my best to make use of my my few assets in this position, which include some potential counterplay here, and also I still have an extra pawn, right? So, but maybe if I spent more time, I could have been a little bit more prudent. But I ended up playing these next two moves just very quickly because I was low on time, and I also, again, I didn't really feel like trying hard to try to come back from this deficit. So after h6, I go to g4. I mean, I'm just leaving everything hanging here. But he proceeds to find the best move, which is queen to c2, which I missed. I mean, at least if he goes queen to e5, I could maybe go to f3 and attack his queen again. But this is all, just not working. Queen c2, on the other hand, is a very good move because I don't have the luxury of just trading queens whenever I want, because again, there's like 1-2 pieces hanging. And if I take this, now there's 2 rooks and a piece hanging. So this is not something I can afford to do. So I try my best with bishop to f3, trying to trade these bishops off. But he gives a check on a6, which is not even the best move. I think that his best move was just, if I recall it correctly, you can trade queens. That's clean. There's also some other move where he just takes the knight at some point, but he ends up doing that all the same. He takes on g5, I take back. And right now his knight is a little bit sidetracked on h7, so for that reason I think the ancient wanted me to go knight d5 with the idea that if you trade queens there's knight e7 in between move, and I just take back. And obviously this is still like completely lost, but it's not as clear as it once was. So after knight h7, I was a little bit materialistic, and I took on a8. I mean, I didn't really see what else to do, but obviously this is a huge disaster in this endgame. Because even though after rook b1, although white has 2 pawns for the piece, I mean, everything is just so busted here. Like I have all these diagonals that are open. This knight on h7 can get back in the game with like knight f8, knight e6, or as he played in the game, he found a better way to do it. So he brought his other knight back with knight to d4, rook to f1 defending, and he goes knight e6. And now this is how he frees his knight. This is all just totally impeccable technique. Like as soon as I blundered with that g5, he played the rest of his moves pretty much instantly, and he made it look very easy. So yeah, I mean, his technique was there's just nothing I can do. So after b4, this is my last move of the game, because after knight kicks f3, I had to resign on pain of rook f3 and d4, where I would lose an entire rook on f3. So that was it for the game. Again, like sure, I played like a complete moron, but at the same time, I learned some lessons here. Most notably that I really need to stop tanking so much in the opening as I do right now. It's just always been a bad habit of mine to just try really hard to find the most precise continuation when I could just, speed up a little and try to just try to find some playable variation. It doesn't always have to be a perfect line, right? So I got to really work on that. Aside from that, like in terms of the actual moves I played in the game, I mean, I was just kind of annoyed that I couldn't figure out what to do against this line. But it turns out that this line is actually legitimate for black. Where you go e6 and queen e7 check. This is actually a theoretical position from some from some Benko courses that I know of, on like Chessable or whatever, but yeah, there's just nothing I could do after this. Black played a good game. So yeah, I'll be back for round 3 bright and early tomorrow, and hopefully I'll get my recap out sometime in the afternoon. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'll be back later.